In the last lecture, we saw how to create a date table, and we also did total YTD. In this lecture, we want to do two new functions, Dateadd and same period last year. And very similar to this, we will do a third function, which is previous month. Here is the business problem. Let's say, for example, we have all the dates with us. So I'm going to copy the table and remove everything that we don't need. And let's only keep the year and the month here. Let's remove the quarter and the date as well. So just to confirm, we have the year from the date table, we have the month from the date table, and we have the total sales value. Now imagine that you wanted to compare 2 years. That means that 18,000 versus 14,237. To do this, click on Power Pivot and New Measure. And let's call this previous year 1. And this would be. So take a minute and think about it as to what is it that we want to do. Since we want to look at the previous year, we can simply write a function called same period last year. That means I want to calculate my total sales, and the filter that we want to apply is same period last year. And what this will do is it will return a set of dates from the previous year. That means that when I'm looking at January, it will pick up January from previous year. When I'm looking at February, it will pick up February from previous year. And then we can select our date table. Let's check the formula. So everything is working properly. And when I press OK, obviously for 2014, there would be nothing in the previous year because this is the base year. But if you're looking at 2015, you can actually see the sales for January for 2015. And on the right, you can see the sales for the previous year, which is 14,000. Another way of doing this would be to write previous year 02. And now we can say calculate total sales. And rather than writing same period previous year, we're going to use a function called Dateadd. The description is that it moves the given set of dates by a specified interval. This means that I can choose the interval that I want, which means last year, 2 years back, 3 years back, and I can also choose the interval type, which means do I want to go back a year or a month or a quarter. So we want to select our date table. The number of interval would be -1 since we want to go back to the previous year. And the interval would be either a day, so I can write a day, I can write a month, or I can write a year. Do remember that quarter is also available here. So we want to select a year here. Let's check the formula. Everything seems to be okay. And when we press OK, you would notice that we get the same result like this. Now at this point, you might wonder what is the difference between both of them. Essentially, they are the same thing. Dateadd gives you much more control as an analyst because you get to choose how many periods you want to go back and what type of period do you want to select, whether it is year, quarter, or month. In same period last year, it determines that automatically. For example, if I minimize everything, you notice that it is still working properly. So there really is very little difference between both the methods. You can use either one of them. The next I want to show you is previous month. This can also be very handy. So let's copy the table and let's just open one of these. And we don't need the previous year right now. So measure, new measure, and previous month. And this would be calculate. We want to look at total sales. And the filter is a function called previous month. As you can see, we also have previous day, month, year, and quarter. Check the formula and press OK. As we would expect, it is giving us the month values offset by 1. That means the value for January is shown next to February, the value for February is shown next to March, and so on and so forth. Once we have done this, we can now also create another measure, which is, let's say, my MOM change, which would be equal to my total sales minus my sales for the previous month. And then we want to keep this in the numerator, and we want to divide it by the sales for the previous month. Let's look at the result. Now I know there is an error coming here, and I'll tell you how to fix that. Let's first see if we are getting the right result or not. From 14 to 4, there was a degrowth of 68%. And from 4,000 to 55,000, there was an increase of 1100%, which is great. Now, why are we getting a numerical error? The reason we are getting this number error is because we can't divide something by a null value. Now, this will happen, right? Because the first month of my first year obviously will have no base. Let's fix this. So I want to go back to my previous month. My MOM change. And rather than simply writing total sales minus previous month divided by previous month, we want to write it slightly differently. We will say divide. And if you notice the definition, it says that it is a safe divide function. That means it can handle divisions by 0 cases. It will not give the user an error. The numerator is what we already know, which is my total sales minus the previous month, comma, the denominator will be the previous month. And now you would see that because it's a safe divide, you will not get that error here. The same results, but without the error. Now do remember that these are only illustrations of the different time intelligence functions available. Like I said earlier, the best way to do this would be to simply go to dateadd.guide. And here you can see how many different time intelligence functions are there. So if we select time intelligence, you can see that we have so many different functions available. Some of these are fairly self-explanatory. For example, closing balance month, closing balance quarter, dates in period, dates YTD, MTD, end of month, end of quarter. Some of it might seem a little cryptic. For example, first non-blank value, Now, I'm not saying that all of these are equally important. It really depends on what type of analytics do you want to do. But it is definitely a good idea to go to the website and at least very broadly go through all the functions listed here. Because personally, I feel that one of the problems with DAX is that we don't even know what all is there. Unlike Excel, where we have years of experience working on it, and with a combination of hit and trial and learning, we have become privy to all the functions available. DAX is probably a completely new area for all of you. And that's why it's very important to know what all it contains. See you for the next lecture.